All right, I'm not gonna lie. I like the rock music on this streaming platform that we use. So, hey, my friends, how are you? I gotta go down here and turn the music down here. I am Tom Ziska. You are in the bike lane on this Monday evening. Glad to have you with us. It's nice to have the heat kind of take the edge off just a little bit from the heat wave that we had. Hopefully, you were able to get out and ride your bicycle. I'm happy to report that after my big busted toe, my shattered right big toe, I'm almost ready to get out on a bicycle again and ride. So I'm looking forward to that and joining you as well. Lots of bike things happening as well as we approach the 4th of July weekend. What I want to talk about tonight, as the if you saw it on social media, um, the title suggests, the blocking of the bike lanes. Houston has hundreds of miles of bike lanes, which is a great thing. They're not always easy to traverse. Let's talk about it with Bike Houston Executive Director Joe Cutrufo. Joe, it's good to have you back. I like having you here. I like chatting with you about all kinds of things, especially when they involve bicycles. How are you?
Great to be here, Tom.
So let's talk about this because you sent me some texts. I want to say it was a couple of weeks ago, with pictures and saying, maybe we ought to talk about this. Bike lanes being blocked, and there are lots of examples that we have to share with people. But kind of give an overview of what your problem is, what your concerns are.
Yeah, I mean, the bike network is only as useful as it remains open. We put a lot of time and effort, and I mean we as in the city of Houston, Harris County, many other partners who fund and design and build bikeways, and also, us, the advocates who make the case for these bikeways. And then they get closed from time to time, and sometimes for more time than they ought to be closed, and without detours. And so that's part of the reason that I reached out to you, and that's part of the reason that we've been making some noise about this on social media, because like I say, a lot goes into the design and the building of these things, and then they get closed for extended periods of time without explanation, communication, and critically, without detours.
So before I get too far adrift, when you say no communication, no detours, no accommodations, in a perfect world, what would happen when a bike lane, for whatever reason, needs to be blocked? And real life happens. These things have to be blocked occasionally.
Yeah, of course. And, construction maintenance happens. There was a fire underneath the MKT bridge, and that
Right?
bridge closed for about 600 days. And, there wasn't a whole lot of communication about that, though we know the Houston Parks Board got that one done with a couple of hiccups along the way, got it done ahead of schedule, and we were grateful for that. But, there are lots of other bikeway detours that we see get done. And then there are some closures that have no detours at all. I mean, look, if we're going to close a highway, if 610 is going to be closed, or some off ramp to between 59 and 610, for example, that's been closed a number of times in the last couple of years for construction and all that sort of thing. You hear about it on the radio, it's happening because it's a major highway. Of course, Buffalo Bayou Park probably doesn't serve quite as many people as I-610 does, but it's still, right in the center of the city. It's a major recreational route. It's also a transportation route. And that's sort of at the heart of the problem. We think of these things as nice to have, but we don't often think about them as critical transportation infrastructure. They are.
You can hear people now. I'm sure you've heard them before. If they're not online right now, they would hear you speak and say, "Come on, dude, they're bicycles, that for God's sakes."
Yeah, they are. And they're also the mode of transportation that a lot of people rely on. They're a lifeline for some people. They may not be a lifeline for you, but they might be a lifeline for someone who's washing dishes in a restaurant, for someone who is serving coffee, for someone who makes less money than you do when you're driving to work in your Tesla. This is a way that people rely on getting around, not unlike public transit and not unlike the streets that we all rely upon.
Mm-hmm.
Look, we close these things with the expectation that people will just find another way around or something like that. But we wouldn't do that with a street. Other than the trains that we often see stopped, like in the East End, there's never really an unannounced detour for drivers. They have 6 pages in the city's infrastructure design manual dedicated to traffic control plans for when there has to be a construction or a detour. 6 pages. When it's about bike detours, 48 words, just 3 bullet points.
So I'm assuming, because in the time that I've known you, I've never not known you to be shy. I've never known you to be shy, rather, about making these points. So what does the city of Houston tell you when you raise this concern?
The city of Houston contains multitudes.
Yeah.
There are different departments who treat these things differently. One department, Houston Planning, has been a good partner around these things. They're the group who is doing the design for most of these bikeways, or at least they're involved in the design for most of these bikeways and for the engagement around most of these bikeways. Public Works, in which sits the Houston Permitting Center, for example. The Permitting Center gives permits to developers who are building major residential developments, office buildings, whatever it is. And sometimes they sign off on construction plans, site plans that close sidewalks and bike lanes. So, you might not see that attitude from another department, but on the permitting center side, we know that they signed off on the permits for a construction project at the corner of Waugh Drive and Dallas, where there's a bike lane on Waugh that is currently closed with no comfortable detour. Certainly not a detour that matches what it says in the infrastructure design manual. It says bicycle detours shall be provided for trail obstructions that reroute trail users to a public street. Detour shall provide a level of user comfort that is equivalent to or superior to that of the obstructed facility. We haven't seen that happen.
So just to make the point, I have some pictures that I pulled from Bike Houston's Twitter account, and I believe I have a picture of what you're describing here. This is the scene at Dallas and Waugh.
Right.
And as you look a little closer, this is a construction site. Is this the one you're talking about?
That's the one.
And you're saying that the permitting process for this, and if you look closely at the screen, Joe, I know you've seen it, but if you're just seeing this for the first time, there's construction fence over the bike lane, and their permit says that there needs to be an accommodation in place?
No, in fact, it doesn't. So that's the thing. So the infrastructure design manual, which is a document that lives within Houston Public Works, says that wherever a bicycle facility is obstructed, you need to have a detour. Yet the Houston Permitting Center, which is in Houston Public Works, signed off on permits for Fairfield, who is building this building, that says, yeah, go ahead and block that sidewalk and block that bike lane.
And the person who took this picture and I believe was retweeted by Bike Houston also snapped this. I think the user's name is Simon, by the way. He put his camera over the fence, and this is what's on the other side. And it does beg a question: do they really need all that space? And
whether or not they need all that space, there's a way to communicate this in that shows where the detour is. And if you don't have a parallel street that's just as good as Waugh, and you really don't, you need to create one. A good example might be where they put out orange temporary barriers along Polk Street downtown because of the extended detour near Discovery Green, where there's a tower being built.
Mm-hmm. So while we're on the topic of kind of doing things upon spaces that exist, bike lanes, there is this over near the spur into Midtown, and underneath all that, underneath those steel plates, is normally, as the sign suggests, a bike route, and I'm going to guess that there is not, that you're aware of, any accommodation for this.
No, there's no detour. We've been hearing that there will be a detour soon. I checked it out yesterday and didn't see any signage. This is a really important connection. This is Holman Street between Louisiana and Bagby. Mm-hmm. It leads to something that people who ride around town know as the hole in the wall, which connects Hawthorne Street to Holman Street. There's a wall that separates Montrose and Midtown over there. and then just a little passageway in between. This has a bi-directional bike lane on it, this section of Holman. And we know it's such an important connection that there's even a counter, I believe, installed by TxDOT underneath Holman Street there. So whenever you ride over, you can see a sort of a pair of double diamonds embedded into the pavement. You're being counted by, I believe, TxDOT. I could be wrong on that, but yeah, this is a really important connection. And without it, you sort of have to figure out another way around. I guess a block north, maybe you could go around the building there that's on the right of that photo, and then come back down. I guess that would be Bagby or Brazos. I'm not sure which street that is, that parallels it. But again, no signage. If you're new to the area, if it's your first time riding over there, or even if you're just not sure where to go because you've always relied on this link, what do you do? If you were in a car, there would be a detour for you. If you're on a bike, there's not. We're not asking for anything asking for anything unique here. We're just asking to be treated as legitimate users of Houston streets.
So why do you suppose there is this disconnect? Because you have lauded Houston Mayor Sylvester Turner for championing the placement and the extension and expansion of bike lanes in the city. But yet there are parts of the city machine, if you will, that seem not to have the same passion.
Yeah, I think that's true. I mean, a mayor and a director of transportation planning, or the people who are behind the scenes getting this work done, finding the funding for it, getting the design and the construction done, they love to see progress. I think we all do, and especially from where I sit. Excuse me, from where I sit, we love to see that change on the streets that makes it possible for more people to get around by bike. But there's a gap, there's a disconnect between the people who are, sharing the vision for a bike-friendly city and doing the big picture work, and the people who are doing the maintenance work maybe underneath Holman Street, or doing the closure around the fireworks coming up on Buffalo Bayou, for example. So the Mayor's Office of Special Events, another department separate from Public Works, separate from Planning, Mayor's Office of Special Events, closes down Buffalo Bayou, or a portion of the trails in Buffalo Bayou, understandably, because there's a fireworks show. You need to keep those pyrotechnics under lock and key. You need security around that. Of course, we all get that. But they're closing this section of trails for 9 days. And the event is only 1 day, as far as anybody knows. So June 27th to July 6th for the July 4th fireworks. Now, I'm sure a lot goes into this. I don't want to say that this isn't a big deal. Of course it is. But to close a trail for that long, and that's really the explanation, trail closed for 9 days. That's it. No communication. I didn't notice anything on their Twitter channel. Hadn't heard anything from any other departments at the city that this will be closed. We just started getting photos sent to us from people who were, out there riding, trying to get somewhere. I think that first photo you showed was from a gentleman named Brian Dotson, who came in for a meeting with Bike Houston earlier this week, riding in through Buffalo Bayou Park, got to that fence, not even a sign on there. And he just tweeted, "I guess I'll be late. I need to find a detour." There was no other, obvious way for him to get through there. So had to find another way. And yeah, he was late to the meeting. No big deal, Brian. But we like anybody else who's trying to make their way through this city, expect to find, wayfinding when an expected route is closed.
And you don't dispute, again, I want to clarify, you don't dispute that where that fireworks show, the Freedom Over Texas fireworks show, is going to be, it's not probably a great place for cyclists to be ambling through with the pyrotechnics. But some advanced information is what you're asking for, and some clear signage and detouring is what you're asking for.
Exactly. And I would add to that too, visibility. So you saw that fence.
Yeah.
I mean, that black wire fencing. Imagine it's dusk or darkness, and you're riding along that trail at 10 to 15 miles an hour, which is a normal speed. If you hit that fence, I don't know if the fence is going down or if the person on the bike is going down, or both, but that's a recipe for disaster. And you don't have to go back very far. On March 24th, Matthew Ledvina was riding home on the White Oak Bayou Trail and hit some orange fencing, just the kind of temporary orange netting that you could buy at Home Depot that was stretched across the White Oak Bayou Trail. He went flying off of his bike and he died right there on the White Oak Bayou Greenway, which he used to commute every single day. Like, he knew that trail like the back of his hand, and he died on it because someone stretched some netting across it. Harris County Flood Control, I believe it was, and didn't put up any.
There was no advance warning that it was there.
No advance warning, no reflective materials, no lights, nothing.
Mm-hmm.
So one person has been killed. Is it a matter of time until somebody else is killed on our trails because a city agency or a county agency puts up fencing that is, dare I say, negligent, or at least not very visible?
The bigger picture is this seeming lack of concern, because certainly outside of these instances that we've described and talked about, there have been myriad places where a vehicle is parked smack dab in the middle of an established bike lane, or some sort of barrier is there where, oh, I'll just put this here, and not a lot of concern that people need to get through there. And they wouldn't typically put it in the middle of the road.
Right. I mean, you do see cars in bike lanes from time to time. At least they're movable. At least that's one person's either indiscretion or, not caring. It's not ideal, but it's, not as common as maybe it was when these bike lanes were first installed. But to see a city department just put fences across a trail and not say much else besides, I think the first sign they put up there just said "Danger, trail closed" with the logo for Freedom Over Texas on there. It doesn't inspire a whole lot of confidence that these agencies really care that they've closed a trail and haven't provided a detour. Now, is there a path on the other side of Buffalo Bayou that somebody else could have used? Yeah. But if they were planning to be on the south side of the bayou and trying to go somewhere downtown, for example, they probably weren't planning to cross, one of the few crossings on Buffalo Bayou. So they've got to turn around. It's an inconvenience. We inconvenience people on bikes all the time and think nothing of it. We don't inconvenience drivers ever. We bend over backwards not to inconvenience drivers. Case in point, as I said earlier, if 610 is going to be closed or a section of 59 is going to be closed, you hear about it on the radio days in advance. People tell you to plan around it, and they do.
I do want to note this last photo that I plucked off your Twitter feed. This shows a construction site in Austin where there's clearly stuff going on, but this demonstrates as this red bike lane. We typically have green ones here, but it's been kept clear to use. This is the kind of thing that you're talking about, I'm guessing?
Yeah, amazing. They can do it just a few, few hundred miles away, not even in Austin. Humans have shown time and time again that this is possible. And if it's possible in Austin, it's possible in Houston. We're not asking for a whole lot here, just the same sort of level of dignity and safety that you would provide a person in a car. And that's not Bike Houston's position alone. That's the city of Houston's position. Again, we're not asking for something that the city hasn't already put in writing that they're going to do. Bicycle detours shall be provided wherever a bicycle facility is obstructed. It's right there in the infrastructure design manual. They're just not following through. I think they're expecting maybe no one's going to notice, maybe no one's going to speak up. And I thank you for giving us this platform to, say it again, beyond just on Twitter or Facebook, Instagram, or whatever. I think people need to know that this is more important than maybe they're expecting it to be, to keep these trails open.
There are a couple of comments on social media. I'm going to pop them up. This one is relevant. This is Simon, who took some of those pictures, noting that on the weekend, more than 4,000 people used the Buffalo Bayou Park Trail that's closed per city counts. But I guess that's in 2016. So Again, there's a balancing act between this special event and the use of it. But as Simon notes, this is not some obscure trail. This is something that a lot of people use. So those codified accommodations that the city of Houston stipulates need to happen, need to be recognized by the myriad agencies that you note can have some effect on these bike trails.
Certainly. And if it's 4,000 in 2016, I wouldn't be surprised if it's at least double that in 2023. Again, 2016, that's the year Turner took office. That's the year before the Houston Bike Plan. That's before Austin Street was built, lots of other bikeways that connect to Buffalo Bayou. And the other thing too, is not just bicyclists. My wife belongs to a running group. She was out running on Sunday. They also encountered the same blockage and had to alter their route as well. So it's runners, it's people pushing strollers, walking dogs, and people on bikes too.
So I do want to just note this. I want to note that Catarino Perez asks for lighting on the trails as well, which is not an insignificant ask. That's a different conversation, Catarino. So I just want to note that you have been heard, and that's something that we can look to in the future. But this is more about blocking the lanes. And I know. Well, I got a message from the mayor's office. Did you talk to someone from the community events people, the people who are in charge of blocking the trails at Buffalo Bayou and Eleanor Tinsley Park? So we know they're paying attention. I did not talk in advance because we recognize that those things need to be blocked for the event. But as Joe says, it'd be nice to have some signage and some detours to help people get around what is clearly a vital route for them.
Yeah, just asking for them to do what's in the infrastructure design manual, just asking for them to do what they would do if these were people in cars and not just people on bikes.
Joe Cutrufo, I thank you very much for your time. I appreciate you. And as I noted before, I always appreciate your insight. And we will do this again. So keep me in mind when things pop into your head. I like getting messages from you. I hope you have a great 4th of July. And if you ride your bike, look for the detours if necessary. But it'd be nice if those detours were appropriately marked. Joe, I'm going to let you go. I appreciate all that you've done. Kept you a little bit longer than I said I would. So off to your family. We appreciate you taking a little bit of your personal time.
Thanks again, Tom, for covering this important issue. And it's always a pleasure to be here with you.
We'll see you next time, Joe. Thank you.
All right. Take care.
My friends, that is the Bike Lane tonight. And if you got some thoughts, shoot me an email. It's right there on the bottom of the screen. Also, you can find me on Facebook. You can find me on Twitter as well. What do you think about this particular conversation? I know some people will hear this, as I noted earlier, that, oh, come on, they're bicycles. Well, they're bicycles, and they're important to people. They're not just recreation. They are vital transportation for some people. And as Joe Cutrufo notes, not everybody has a really nice car and a really nice house. Some people work a lot harder in some crummier jobs than perhaps you're used to, and that bicycle is the only way they can get where they need to go. And these paths are important to them. Kind of an all of the above sort of thing. We have cars, we have public transportation, bicycles. It's not just one, it's all of the above. So we need to accommodate them as well. That is it. Hope you have a great 4th of July. I will see you next week. I got a great idea for next week. Still trying to put the pieces together. So that's the best tease I can come up with. And when I know more and when I can share more, I will. My friends, that is the Bike Lane. I appreciate you. My name's Tom. Go out and ride your bike.